to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. This show is about the people. This show is for the people. This show is by the people. Sharing Harvard. This show is about the people. This show is for the people. This show is by the people. Sharing Harvard. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard.
Hello, my name is Tamika Jackson, and I'm the host of Taking It to the Streets. Today, we have Rachel Greenbaum, our guest. She has recently written a book called The Well Boy. But before we get into that, I would like her to introduce herself and tell her a couple of things about her.
Well, Tamika, thank you so much for having me on the show today.
No problem.
And I'm 20 years old. I'm currently attending a university, and I'm majoring in communications, minoring in journalism.
Oh, that's really cool because my major is journalism, broadcast journalism to be exact.
Oh, see, so we're all in the same field
We are.
here. And I've been acting since I was a little girl, since I was like 5 years old. I'd always watch like the Disney movies and stuff like that, and I'd always like recreate the scenes and like memorize all of the characters and do all the scenes. And then at a young age, I decided that I wanted to start writing. So I would write all these like little stories, and like I literally had like a full binder of all these stories, and I would just start writing. So writing is something that I enjoy doing. Acting is something that I enjoy doing. I do singing and stuff like that with the choir, and been to different other places with singing and stuff like that. So literally I try to make my way on all different types of the arts.
Right. So you're like a triple threat.
You could say that.
That's awesome. Well, I have a brief synopsis of your book. This is a sinister and lustful secret that hides beneath the walls of the Wells mansion. A secret that has been concealed for centuries. Angela Grace, a 16-year-old girl from Michigan, is forced to move from her home in the suburbs of Chicago. She loses everything and continues to suffer from the depression of losing her mother. Her father doesn't seem to understand and buries himself with work to cope with the pain. As Angelica moves into the mansion, she hears the gruesome tales of the Wells boy. Unfazed by the superstition, she begins to invent ghost stories to gain popularity. But the more the stories she invents, the more real her stories seem to become. Angela soon realizes that there is something to these ghost stories, and she herself becomes a character in her own fairy tale.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, how did you become interested in writing?
See, literally at a very young age, I think I started to get into that. I would write all these short stories. And at first, when I was a little girl, I'd always bring my little brother and my cousin, and I'd sit them down, and I'd be like, guys, I want you to listen to this story that I actually wrote. And they would be like, no, please, no stories, you know. They're like, we don't want anything a part of this. So what I would do is I would sit them down, and I'd read them these stories that I wrote. They would be like 5 pages or something like that. But as I got older, the stories got longer, my creativity broadened,
Right.
and I just literally kept writing. And I mean, nothing became of these stories. It was my way of expression, almost in a way. Like most girls write in a diary,
Yeah.
I wrote a story. So it helped me cope with a lot of the issues that I dealt with in high school and even in college to this day. So I basically started writing a way of expression, and not thinking anything of it, just kept writing. And I love to create stories and create different characters. So my love for writing just blossomed almost in a way, and I just kept writing even to this day, just continued to do it.
Okay. What authors inspire you?
You know what? I have such a repertoire of authors that I really like. I'm a huge fan of like olden day period pieces. So like the Pride and Prejudice. I love Jane Austen. I think she's a magnificent writer. You just don't find writing like that anymore. You know, someone that you can literally read the book and actually see the
Yes.
pictures inside of the story. So I think Jane Austen is an amazing author. Emily Bronte, the author of Wuthering Heights, I adore her. I also like some of the new authors. I like Maya Angelou with her poetry.
Yes.
I enjoy Cassandra Clare. She's actually the author of the Mortal Instruments series, and her books are actually becoming movies. So anytime you see, because I'm a young adult author as well,
Yes.
when you see other young adult authors actually having their books made into movies, it opens the door for every young adult author, which is extremely wonderful to even see that, because at first you didn't see anything like that. So it's an amazing experience to see that. So I'd say those would be my the authors that I really do enjoy.
Okay. How did you come up with the story for The Wales Boy?
You see, it was actually, I was writing a story before this one, and I just couldn't finish it. You know, when you just write something and you
Have
just don't
writer's
have
block?
you just have writer's block, and you just don't have the heart to do it. And I was just tired one night, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to bed, take some medication, just go to sleep, some NyQuil, and go to sleep. And I had this dream. And I know that sounds really cliche, and a lot of authors say that.
Right.
But I had a dream about a specific chapter inside the book, and I had a dream about my two main characters, which is Angelica and Char. And I had this dream about them talking to each other. And I wrote this chapter first, and then from the beginning, I wrote it, like finishing it, and then to the chapter that I had dreamed about. And then I finished the ending, which was something that any writer can say is a wonderful experience, because you actually finish a book and it's like, wow, you finished this, and you feel like a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
So once I finished this book, after I had this dream, I knew that this is the book that I wanted other people to read and other people to experience.
Now, The Wales Boy is a very interesting title. How did you come up with that?
You see, I've always loved the name Wales for like a last name, and what I did is, if you can kind of see on the first page of the book, the cover is actually a female on the front cover, and a lot of people that have read the book, they were like, oh, why is there like a female? That's so interesting that you did that. And the title of the book is called The Wales Boy. So I wanted something very catchy, something to capture someone's attention. And to me personally, I think it kind of has a ring to it. Like, there's so many different like things that it could be. I know I told one of my aunt one this time, and I was like, yeah, it's called The Wales Boy. And she's like, the one in the ocean or something like that. So I'm like, no, not that one. So I just wanted it to actually make people want to read it. And I feel like that name, it has so many different aspects that it could be. And then with a woman on the front cover, they're like, ooh, what is this about?
Right.
So the awe factor. And I think that's how I came up with The Wales Boy.
How did you develop the characters for The Wales Boy?
Well, I always joke with everyone and say that these characters are like my children, because you mold them, you create them, you make these personalities. I literally, when I first started actually writing these characters, I had a list, I put their name, and I literally, if anyone reads it, their names have meaning. Angelica, my main character, I had to actually like look up her name, and I actually wanted a specific name for her to fit her personality. So I did that, and I came up with the name, and then I was like, I'm going to create these characters. I'm going to make them real. How do you make someone real? You give them favorite foods. You give them a favorite color. You give them a playlist, what they would have on their iPod. And that's how I created them. I literally made them into real people. And basically that's how I did it. I would think of scenarios, and I would basically like create them that way. And I would say, well, what would they do? So I just molded them from that, and they literally wrote the story themselves.
So, how long did the writing process take for you?
Wow, the writing process, I began, I want to say 2 years ago, and I wrote like the chapters, and that took a couple of months. And then the process of actually getting everything done, getting everything edited, took about, I would say, 2 years, because it just came out last month in August. And it took quite some time, but as any writer, any author knows, that it's a long process, but the benefit, like at the end, having it out, holding it in your hand, actually being able to see it in front of you is worth any type of wait, an eternity, just to be able to hold it in your hand and to actually see other people reading it and doing all that. So it took quite some time, but it was worth it.
Your main character is Angelica Grace. What does she mean to you? How did you come up with her? How does she relate to you?
Well, anytime I write a character, I try to put a little piece of myself into it. And I actually had a conversation with one of my friends, and they were like, well, how did you come up with Angelica and like all the rest of the characters, like bits and pieces of their personality? And what I try to do is I try to make them as real as I possibly can. So little bits of myself has gone into Angelica, little bits of my friends that I like about them, their characteristics, like stuff that they do that I find interesting. I put that into my characters. And I hope and I feel that when people actually read the story, they can be able to relate to these characters because, you know, they are real to me, and hopefully they can be very real to them as well. And they can find little aspects of my characters inside of themselves as well.
How does the story relate to an average teenager?
Well, we all know Angelica's 16, and she loses her mother, which anyone can attest to that it's such a horrible thing to lose anyone in your family, let alone your mother. And she's from Michigan, and she moves to Chicago. So try to imagine this. You lose your mother, now you're losing your friends, you're losing your family, your safety net, your safety zone. And she moves to Chicago, a whole new city, and she actually talks about how her friends doesn't even call her. When she moves, she thinks that they're going to be devastated, but they don't even pick up the phone to call her. So you're basically alone in everything. And her father, who's Bruce Grace, he's very busy, so he's working. Everyone copes with losing a loved one a different way, and he copes with overload, working. And so she's basically just alone in this type of scenario. And I wanted anyone who has lost anyone in their life to realize that, you know, you can get through it. You can get through anything. And hopefully if they're going through this period in their time, I know me to cope with a lot of stuff, I read. And if my book can take that depression, that pain away from them only for a little bit as they're reading, I would feel accomplished as an author to know that my book helped them relate to the pain that they were going through. And then Angelica's in high school. We all know
it's a rough time.
That's a rough time in anyone's life. You're going through so many struggles. You're learning exactly who you are, you know. And my book, it talks about bullying. I'm sure like everyone has been bullied either in the workplace, either in elementary school, either in high school. You know, you go through that. And then it talks about like issues that teenagers go through. Let's be real, everyone, in high school and college. These issues come up. Drug abuse,
sex,
alcohol, sex. It's in elementary school now. So for girls that are going through this, if they don't know who to turn, it's hard to talk to your parents about this kind of stuff.
It is.
So if they can read this book and actually feel like, wow, I'm going through this right now, so is this character. She made it through it. I can make it through it. And that's why I feel like other people will really relate to this piece, because it'll get them through whatever they're going through. It'll have like something that they can read about and they can say, well, wow, I'm not alone in this.
That's really amazing.
Thank you.
Why did you choose Chicago as the setting of the story?
Well, you know, I'm a Chicago-born native, so Chicago pride. And I feel as if there's so many movies and so many books out there about New York and like California and all these different places, but Chicago is such a beautiful place, and I just feel like no one has written about Chicago yet. And I wanted to like open viewers' minds to Chicago. And it's like I said, it's such a beautiful place. Like there's movies actually being filmed here now, and it's getting a lot of publicity. So I was a Chicago-born native. I was like, you know what, Chicago's such a beautiful place, might as well write about it.
Right. So, The Wales Boy, what genre is this considered? Young adult, fiction, romance?
Well, it would definitely be young adult, so it is. But I've had actually some older, like in their 30s, people read it as well and be able to relate to it. It's definitely a romance. I won't get into it because I'll give too much away. But there's romantic aspects inside the book. It's fictional, so no one is based off like reality. It is fictional. And I would say that it has a spiritual aspect as well. So for those people that like a little bit of spirituality, it has that in it. But definitely young adult, romance, spirituality, fictional.
It's funny that you said you didn't want to get into that because the next question is the very touching love story.
Oh, yes.
How did that come about?
Well, when I created this love story, there's so many love stories out there.
Yeah.
How do you distinguish my love story from everyone else's? And the way that I wanted to do it is that I wanted young girls to read this story and realize, like, girls are so precious. They really are.
They are.
Us as women, we're precious beings. And I wanted them to realize that you're supposed to be treated in a specific way. And I feel like a lot of women nowadays, they settle for guys that don't treat them like princesses.
That's true.
Which in reality, we should be. It's just the reality of the fact. And when I created this male character, I wanted women, when they read this, to be like, wow, this is how I should be treated. And when I created the Wales Boy, I put charismatic like parts into him, like compliments, the way that he talks, the way that he presents himself, the way that he compliments females is the way that we should be treated. We should get flowers occasionally. We should just even a smile or a hug or an I love you, that goes a long way.
It does.
And I feel like this main character, anyone can say I love you. Anyone can say that. Like I could tell you that right now, but it's your actions that prove otherwise, and that's when I created him. I wanted females to actually see the way that they should be treated. And when I made the Wales Boy and Angelica, that's exactly what I tried to do. So that's how I created their relationship, and the basis and the foundation of their relationship is based upon that.
That sounds very amazing.
Thank you.
So I'm aware that you were once the host of Taking It to the Streets.
Yes.
How was that?
It's such a wonderful experience. I was actually in a play called Temptations, and which is funny because that was like literally about the temptations that normal like high school students face. And I was in this play, and I was I believe my name was Miracle. Yeah, I was the bully. So that's always fun to play the bully. And I was this bully. And it was at the DuSable Museum, and I was actually doing, I believe it was opening night. And I come back, it was like the play was over and everything like that. And I came back, and my mom comes up to me, and she's like, I met such an interesting woman. And I'm like, oh, Mom, you're always talking to everyone. Like, who did you meet this time? And she's like, I met this wonderful woman named Sharon Harper. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. She's like, yeah, she's hosting this television show called Taking It to the Streets. And she said that, she's looking for young people to actually host this television show. And I talked about this before, that I'm a journalism minor, so it was always something that I was interested in. So I basically was like, let me meet this Sharon Harper. Let me see if we can connect and I can actually host this television show. I was 16 at the time, by the way. So I emailed Sharon Harper. She was a wonderful woman. We talked for a little bit, and she's like, well, I want you to host this show about like teenage problems. I believe the first problem that I interviewed someone on was abstinence. So I got these people together, and I talked to them, and I interviewed them. And I fell in love with it. It was such a wonderful experience to be able to see yourself on camera, to be able to actually do your dream and actually like see it manifest in front of you. So I fell in love after that point. She couldn't get rid of me. So I would come back like every other month, I believe, and just host different shows. I actually got to do shows on my favorite books, which is the Twilight series. So I got to talk about that. I got to do a review on the Karate Kid, which was very interesting. And I also got to do one on etiquette. So it was just an amazing experience. I love doing it. And like I said, it's just so wonderful to be able to get that experience to even do that.
So how does it feel being the person who is being interviewed?
Ooh, good question. It's because I'm so used to being like in your shoes
Right, on
and
the
everything
other
like
foot.
that. I feel like it's a wonderful experience because sometimes you always have like everything in your head that you're gonna ask the specific person. But for me, I didn't know exactly what I was gonna come in and say. I'm like, okay, let me prepare. How do you like prepare for this type of stuff? But I love being impromptu. I love like just getting on and actually being able to improvise. I do that in college all the
Right.
time. You know how our teacher tells you, oh, you have a project due. You have to do it like that, and you have to like think on. And I think in our field, in our
Yes.
profession, you have to be able to come up with something. You never know what's going to happen. If you're a news journalist, if you're an actor, if you host a television show, everything, you have to be prepared for anything. And I think it's cool, even you being the host, you know, have to be on top of everything.
Yes.
Me being the interviewee, like, it's a wonderful experience because it's going to help us in everyday life, and especially in the field that I want to go into. So, I mean, it's fun. I like it.
And you're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you so much. Great. You're doing a wonderful job as well.
Thank you. So have you tried out for America's Got Talent?
Yes. Actually, I did. I've done all of that stuff. I've done American Idol, America's Got Talent, and
Tell me about your experiences.
yeah. Well, it's a wonderful experience. Anyone that's ever done it, they can say that it's a long experience. It's a long process, but just to be able to be on the show, even meet other people that wants to be in the field that you want to be in, and you meet so many talented people. And I know everyone says that, but there's so many people out there that really strive to be a singer and strive to act and strive to write. And when you meet so many people like in a group like that, it's you feed off of each other, and it's just so awesome to be in a room full of talented people and get to meet other celebrities. I actually I was an extra, I believe 2 years ago, and I did the movie The Dilemma. And to be able to be even an extra, because I would love to be an actress as well, to be in that type of field, in that type of aura around such a talented director like Ron Howard and
Right.
Vince Vaughn and all those actors, to be with old school people, you know, the ones that's been here for so long, just to be in the company of them.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. It really is. And so I've done all of that ever since I was 5 years old. Just being with modeling companies and going to different auditions. It would literally be times where I'd be in school and because I went to a Catholic school, I'd be in my full Catholic uniform, and I'd have my mom, she would come up like in no time, and she'd be like, Rachel, come to the office. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, am I in trouble? You know, what's going on? And my mom would be down there with a bag of clothes, and she's like, Rachel, you have an audition. We have to go right now. We have to go to the city. And like, even I think what you asked me before, like being impromptu, like
Yeah.
being ready for anything. Like, you have to be ready for anything. Like, anyone that's trying to get into this field, I say go for it. You know, it's such a wonderful experience, such a wonderful field, and I feel like it helps you in the long run, because any job you have to do, you have to be prepared for anything, and you have to be a good public speaker. You have to, in a workplace, be able to give good eye contact to people, be able to, you know, show them that you're worth it for this job. So being in this field helps you with all of that. Even doing pageants at a young age, I wasn't afraid of people because I was constantly being put in front of people. So I don't get uncomfortable around it. It's just like, oh, I'm in front of these people. That's cool. They're going to get to know the real me.
Right.
You know, so that it was just all the experience that I've had have created the person that I am today. And I feel like when I do decide to graduate from college, because I am a junior, when I do graduate from college, I won't be as afraid to sell myself.
Right.
Because I'm so used to doing that with different modeling agencies, different acting companies, and all of that.
Your experiences in pageants, have you won anything?
Yes, I won Miss All-American, and I believe I was 15 years old. And the pageant experience, it's not for someone that you have to have thick skin. That's the best way that I can explain it, because in a world where everyone's looking at your weight, at your hair, at your makeup, at your eyes, like
Right.
everything, every minute aspect of yourself is being judged by these people that you don't even know. And granted, when I first did this pageant, I was like, I'm not going to win. Like, I'm up against such these beautiful people that are
Right.
so very talented. And I didn't think that I would win. And I won Miss Congeniality.
That's amazing.
And I was watching the movie with Sandra Bullock at the time, so I thought it was so cool. I
Right.
was like, hey guys, you know, I am Miss Congeniality and stuff like that.
Right.
And I remember me and this other girl being called up. And literally, when they called my name, I went blank for a little bit. So it was a lot, but it was a wonderful experience.
That's amazing. It was truly a pleasure interviewing you today.
Thank you so much.
Where can we see more of you?
Well, you can find me on Tumblr, you can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Goodreads. So just look me up, Rachel Greenbaum, and literally, I'll be everywhere. Google me.
Oh, I will.
To the streets, we're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. This show is about the people. This show is for the people. This show is by the people. Sharing Harvard. This show is about the people. This show is for the people. This show is by the people. Sharing Harvard. To the streets, we're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. Yeah. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the streets. We're sharing Harvard. This show